Welcome to Fake Presidents, a real podcast about, well, you know.
Each episode will take a deep dive into a fictional American president from pop culture to see just how much fiction there really is.
I'm Eric Buckman, a former political consultant turned TV writer.
And I'm Ben Oren, a former journalist, sometimes speechwriter, and all-the-time TV producer.
And, yeah, in this episode, that buzz you hear is not your audio equipment failing, it's not your podcast playing the wrong MP3 or some corrupted file. That's the sound of Ben trying to do his best impression of one of the stars of the movie we did.
Bees. Because the movie we're doing today is 2024's The Beekeeper.
Starring lots of bees. Tons of bees. A cast of thousands of bees.
I don't think they were real bees. Not to, spoiler alert.
You don't think there were any real bees in this movie?
No, I think they took flies and dressed them up like bees.
Interesting.
Because flies are easier to work with, and they're not unionized the way bees are. So it's actually cheaper to take individual house flies, and either you put a little costume on them, or you paint them. Those are your two options. And I think for this movie, the director, David Ayer? I've seen his name for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Ayer? Whatever it is, he prefers to paint them.
My name is Andrew Shepard, and I am the president.
But yeah, we're doing The Beekeeper. It's a fun movie. I didn't even know that there was a president in this one until one of our devoted listeners wrote in and told us about it. Well, I was on an airplane. I was getting ready to go on a flight. And of course, this is the perfect movie to watch on an airplane.
That's the ideal place to watch it, in the air, in flight, much like a bee. I watched it in a
a fly dressed up like a bee.
Yeah, I watched it in home video. I was not flying anywhere. I tried to schedule a flight somewhere so I could watch it in its ideal setting, but you know how Delta is. But that person wrote in. Should we give him a shout out?
Sure, Brett Quimby.
He contacted you, said there's a president. You watched it. You told me there's a president. I didn't know there's a president.
I had to double check because, sometimes people write in and lie to us. There's been lots of movies where people are like, there's a president in this movie, check it out. And then I watch it and I'm like, there's no fake president in The Godfather Part 3.
Fake Vatican.
They got me.
Real Vatican? Fake Pope?
Yeah. What's the one with I forgot the title of it. It's the one where the mad scientist sews up mouths to anuses.
Oh, the Human Centipede.
Yeah, Human Centipede. There was no fake president in that. And then the same person wrote back, they're like, sorry, Ben, that was a joke. But honestly, in Human Centipede 2, there is one. And I watched that one, and no fake president.
The most amazing thing about that is you watched both movies and could not remember what they were called.
No, but then I watched the third one just to round out the trilogy because I like to finish things. But anyway,
yeah, this movie, it did have a fake president. You told me that. I did not know how or why. I was like, I'll watch it blind. Someone did tell me, not knowing we're covering the podcast, just let it slip in a conversation, that this movie had an awful lot to say about Hillary Clinton and Hunter Biden. And so I was like, oh, crap, it's a female president with a fuck-up son. And so I watched the movie kind of having that kind of spoiled. But I got to say, I don't think there's any Hillary Clinton and Hunter Biden in this movie.
I think it's just a lazy connection. And whoever told you that, you should cut out of your life. Hopefully it wasn't one of your children. Hopefully it was one of your children who told you that.
Yes, one of my 7-year-old who watched The Beekeeper before I did, just to bet it.
Because I would hate for you to have to cut her out of your life for making a comment like that. So
that said, a movie called The Beekeeper probably would be pretty high on their lists of movies to watch.
Yeah. It would have everything you would think that a 7-year-old would enjoy. Yeah. But no, this one, unless they checked who the director is, and if it's David Ayer, then they're like, well, he did direct Training Day. He wrote Training Day, wrote Training Day. He wrote, I didn't even know this. He's credited on the OG Fast and the Furious.
I guess his reputation in Hollywood for a while was just writing gritty, like street level cop movies. And then he did wind up doing Suicide Squad, which had no cops, or I guess it did. It had soldiers in a cop-like position. But then he did Bright, which was just a cop movie with orcs.
Yes. And with Will Smith. He did Furry with Brad Pitt and Shia LaBeouf. Furry. It was about furries.
Oh, Fury. Fury. It's about a tank.
They weren't dressed up like fuzzy animals?
No, there are no fuzzy animals in Fury, the tank movie, the World War II tank movie. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Although apparently he had a good relationship with Shia LaBeouf, because I noticed they did work again with each other somewhat recently.
Yeah, The Tax Collector.
Maybe there's a cop in that? I don't know. I haven't seen it.
It's like a fun movie. It's like a B movie. I mean, like...
Not this B movie.
Which is also what The Beekeeper is. It's a B movie, which is like, it's not a knock on it.
Wait,
it just is what it is.
You've seen The Tax Collector?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You're a real fan of David Ayer.
I am.
I'll just say, I was surprised to see his name on this movie, because when I first heard of the movie, it felt like, oh, this is one of those. I mean, let's just say The Beekeeper, it's an imitation of an imitation of an imitation. It's part of a subgenre of action films that started with Taken, in which basically some bad guys inadvertently piss off somebody with a very special set of skills. It's taken up a notch with John Wick. And then now you have the next iteration of The Beekeeper, which is essentially doing the John Wick thing of creating a whole mythology surrounding, because the first, the Taken movies, CIA agent, he's a spy. He does spy shit. And then when you enter the assassin world of John Wick, it's like not just assassins, but assassins. You have special coins and special vocabularies and special like hierarchies.
Hotels. There's special hotels where they get special rates.
And now you get
special rates.
Yeah. And so The Beekeeper, there's a whole aura around who the beekeeper is, what the beekeepers do. At certain points, the beekeepers sound like an organization, but then they also refer to them in the singular as if there's only one at a time.
And it seems like he's the only one who really took it seriously in terms of being a beekeeper afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. He took a lot of things very literally, which was kind of like entertaining, because once the game is that he's just going to drop bee puns, but in a very serious way throughout the movie, I'm like, this is great. I'm fine with it.
Sometimes when the hive is out of balance, you have to replace the queen.
So, I mean, who else made this movie? It was written by Kurt Wimmer, who I'm a big fan of.
He has great credits.
It's a really weird set of credits.
I mean, it's not like great, like the movies aren't great, but it's just funny that he did the Point Break remake. He did the Children of the Corn remake. He did the Total Recall remake. He did the Thomas Crown Affair remake, which was great, which is a great movie, which I don't care that he did those other 3 shitty movies, because the Thomas Crown Affair is a great movie.
My favorite movie of his, or at least the one that put him on my radar, was a movie he wrote and directed called Equilibrium. Have you seen that? That's a Christian Bale movie with Tay Diggs. It's basically 1984 with Kung Fu. But it's not just ordinary Kung Fu. It's Gun Fu. They created entire martial arts around guns, where once you're done firing with them, the guns themselves become a weapon that you can use in close hand-to-hand combat. And there's this whole mathematical approach where they shoot not by targeting, but by mathematically aiming where they expect people to be, which they choreograph around. It had some pretty inventive stuff. The story
it's like trick shots, but they're killing people.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And Christian Bale is super badass in the entire thing. The main premise is 1984. You have a Big Brother type entity. Maybe there's a fake president. What would you call a fake autocratic dictator of most of the Northern Hemisphere? But in this world, emotions have been banned. And everyone takes pills called Equilibrium. And you have to take them at a certain time of day, every day, in order to suppress your emotions. And so what happens when Christian Bale, who is this cleric of the highest order, guy who carries gun to kill people who have emotions, starts to develop emotions himself.
Ooh.
You know.
What is love? Yeah.
But that was Kurt Wimmer. His follow-up, Ultraviolets, with Mila Jovovich.
Yeah.
Less good. So his directing career has not gone on that long, unfortunately. I think mostly because of that movie. But his writing career, super. Like, he did Salt, which I guess we might cover at some point. A lot of fake presidential politics in that. The cast, you have Jason Statham.
I love a good Jason Statham. I mean, he's been with us for like over 25 years at this point.
And he looks the
kicking
same.
ass.
Talk about
Looks the
actors who
same.
never age. He's been playing the same age since The Italian Job, which came out, 2001, 2002?
Yeah, but we've had him since like Lock, Stock.
Yeah,
And that was in
mid-90s.
what, 98, 99?
Yeah.
He was either Hobbs or Shaw.
Shaw,
The Expendables. He was the young buck in The Expendables.
which one of those eventually got, I think, written by Kurt Wimmer, too.
Yeah. And one of my favorites, like speaking of B movies, Crank. Have you seen Crank?
The first one.
The first one. It's basically speed. It's speed with speed, right? He
In the
has to
body,
keep
because his heart rate can't.
And so at one point he has to have furious sex with Amy Smart in front of a group of people to keep his adrenaline going, so he can continue like living and fighting and finding the cure.
But we should say it's also the kicking butts in an action movie. He is also
Yeah.
fighting people and shooting them,
Yes.
which in its own right should raise your heart rate.
Yeah.
So Jason Statham, you have Felicia Rashad
Yes.
in a role much smaller than I was anticipating.
But it works. It's enough because whenever
Yeah.
you see her, you think of Bill Cosby, and you're like, I don't like thinking about Bill Cosby. And then
Yeah.
she's gone from the movie, and you're like, great. I don't got to think about Bill Cosby anymore.
She's basically playing the dog in John Wick.
Whoa. But yeah,
You have,
Emily Raver Lampman
okay.
from the Umbrella Academy. We got the Josh Hutcherson.
Oh, I forgot about him. Yes, who I've been a fan of for a long time, for 20 years now, and he's not that old. So
Wait, he's been around for 20 years?
I remember first seeing him in a movie called Little Manhattan that came out in 2004, 2005. And I'm sure he even been a child actor even before then. Josh Hutcherson, who would go on to be P.T. What's his name in
Yeah.
the Hunger Games movies?
Pita? Pita?
Yeah.
He was a way little love interest compared to the larger love interest.
Yeah, the one played by the Australian guy.
Not Thor?
Not Thor.
Thor's brother?
Thor's other brother.
Yeah.
Thor-
not the
not-
other brother from
Not the one
Westworld.
from Westworld, no. Who else? Is it? Should we say who plays the president?
Got Minnie.
Oh, Minnie Driver's in for 2 scenes. What does she do? What does Minnie Driver do?
Yeah, and she wasn't even with anybody. They're just like, we need somebody for this role. Let's see who we could get. They just need to show up to do three sets.
It's like the third movie in a row in which a one-time leading person has maybe a cameo, or maybe it's all they can get movie. We saw Brendan Fraser in G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
There was Christian Slater in Star Trek 6.
Yeah.
And now Minnie Driver in
Driver.
The Beekeeper.
In a larger role, we have Jeremy Irons.
Oh, yes. I because he's almost playing his Alfred character again, speaking of the DC universe.
Yeah, it's like an evil Alfred.
Is he evil, or is he...
I don't know, evil. I think he morally, in terms of morals, he comes down more on the side of not having as many.
Right, but I mean, when we get to the end, we'll get to the end. But his loyalty winds up being to a person who then we find out wasn't so bad after all.
He could have done a bit more in the beginning to prevent it from getting as crazy. But.
Okay, yeah.
And then finally, we have Jemma Redgrave, who plays
Yes, the
president.
President Danforth, who I know from the more recent Doctor Who seasons, but other people probably know her from her vast acting history in Great Britain largely. She's an English actress who is part of the multi-generational Redgrave family. She's one of many Redgraves. So that's the cast. Writer, director. Should we go in the fact that there's 20 company logos that open the movie, which usually is not a good sign, but
No,
in
I
this
think
case, it worked out.
Yeah, there was a lot of buzz for this script.
A lot of companies came together to finance it.
A lot of them wanted to put a lot of honey into the pot, if you know what I'm saying, so that they can make The Beekeeper.
This is a presidential favor.
Should we quickly get through this story?
How much of a story do we have to get into? I mean, he's a beekeeper. Someone pisses him off, and he kills everybody out of revenge.
Yeah, but he's very selective. He in some cases he knows who to kill and who not to kill. If it's a legit bad guy, he kills them. If he knows that they're just a schmo who's doing their job because he's works for the FBI and whatever, he's okay, I'm just gonna kick you in the chest and you're gonna pass out.
Unless you're a security guard hired by the bad guys.
Yes.
In which case, he says you could die.
Which was weird that all the bad guys wore a lanyard that said,
I'm just a security guard.
yes.
I'm a third-party contractor. I'm just protecting the building. My job is to not let you in, and you're going to kill me.
But It was very amusing with how he took people out. Like, a lot of thought. Ayer and Wimmer really put thought into the scenes so that they wouldn't feel too repetitive.
I'm a beekeeper. To protect the hive. Sometimes I use fire to smoke out hornets.
To give the plot a little more specifics.
Yes.
Jason Statham is a beekeeper on a ranch.
He's a legitimate bee. He's a beekeeper in the sense of he keeps bees.
He keeps bees, and he lives on land owned by Felicia Rashad, who's
in like rural Massachusetts. It all takes place in Massachusetts.
Yes. When we first meet him, he's clearing out bees from a part of her house where she doesn't want bees, doing his job, but not like he was called in just to do that. No, he happens to live there, and he was just doing the thing that he does best while living there. And at the same time,
he's protecting the hive. They were like bad hornets.
Yeah, and
he had to get rid of the hornets to protect the hive.
She's like a retired, teacher, public servant?
Yeah.
Who is very charitable. She runs a charity, as well as she has her own like pensions and health funds and what?
You know how charitable this lady is? She runs a charity.
She is. And that's ultimately why winds up pissing off the beekeeper, because she does the thing that I'm so one day worried that my parents will do. Or, heck, someone younger in my family, my wife, anyone. It's like my biggest fear is that you'll get that email that says that you've been hacked, or that pop-up window that says you have a computer issue. Please call us for technical support. And so, assuming it's legit, you call the number, you click on the link, and now you're talking to the bad guys, trying to get access to your computer, not knowing it because you think they're the Best Buy Geek Squad.
Yeah, but instead, you're talking to a scuzzbag, a scam artist, working out of like a high-tech boiler room kind of place.
Oh yeah, it's not popcorn ceilings. This isn't fluorescent lighting. It's not a call center as you would typically picture, just a generic, most likely out of the country call center.
It could be a German disco.
Yeah,
they got big screens. They have like a video effects person employed there just to like throw shit on the screen so that there's numbers to go along with it.
Yeah, the head call guy will frequently march up and down on a runway while speaking into a headset, like he's with all eyes on him.
That it has a mute button right in it so that he could talk to the person, but then quickly put it on mute to be like, "Oh, I got her good now. Watch how I really reel her in." Click. Okay, lady, miss. If you could just give me this information, well, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, that guy who we did not mention the cast list. I don't know who played him. I'll just say he's not Topher Grace.
No, but
looks
he is
a bit like Topher Grace.
He is Topher Grace-ish.
So she winds up falling for the scam and gives these people access to her computer, and they start wiping out all her funds, especially the charity that she runs with millions of dollars.
Over $2 million they get
that
from her.
They take. And so her only recourse then is to
take a gun out and kill herself.
Yes, she does. Not call the police, not call the FBI, not call her daughter, who apparently is with the FBI.
Who is an FBI agent.
For people who are just tuning in for the first time, we don't really get in that much into the weeds on the non-presidential and the non-political stuff of a movie. That said, it felt like that was a last-minute rewrite and or reshoot to suddenly make the FBI agent directly related to Felicia Rashad, because other than two scenes in the whole movie, there's no reference or effect of that at all on her character. So it felt like pretty late in the game. They're like, oh, maybe if we make her the daughter, that might keep some of Felicia Rashad alive through more of the film than she's currently in. Maybe and to give the cop more motivation, even though, most cops don't need that kind of motivation.
Yeah, because it's their job.
Or maybe they do, and that's the problem. Not enough cops are related to them.
I think most cops show up to the scene of a crime, especially like murders, and they're like, oh, I don't know this person.
Yeah.
What do you want? You want me to really care? But it's not my mom who is killed. Call me when it's my mom who is murdered.
That said, the fact that it's her mom probably means she shouldn't have been on the case at all.
Yeah.
A little bit of a conflict.
Well, too close. But not only is her daughter angry about the suicide and finding out that the accounts were wiped out, so is the beekeeper.
He's more pissed off about the murder. He doesn't really care about the money.
He does care. He does care because he says stealing from an elderly person is as bad as stealing from a child. Worse. Because sometimes they're left to face the hornets alone.
It's still patronizing.
The worst. It's about stealing from a child.
So he cares. He's upset, and he pretty quickly. Actually, he's a suspect at first.
Yeah.
He winds up pretty quickly figuring out who she was talking to,
Yeah.
using his beekeeper connections.
And this is where he starts just like kicking ass.
It's very convenient that she was hacked by a scam call center within driving distance, probably even walking distance, saw central Massachusetts. So in the greater Springfield vicinity.
If you have the time and the weather's nice, why drive to the place where you're gonna like kick everybody's ass? Take a walk.
Yeah,
It's
believe
close
it
enough.
nice. Check out the
It's
foliage.
nice. Look at some colleges. Do a little side trip to the office building, and let everybody know that they should get out because you're going to set it on fire.
Yeah.
Because that's what he does. He's a man of his word.
He kicks some butt, starts some fires. Yeah, but does not kill the not Topher Grace guy.
Yes.
Even though he knows he's the person most responsible for the death of his best friend.
Yeah.
Best friend? Mentor? Landlord?
His mother figure.
And so the rest of the movie is just him going up the ladder. We find out pretty quickly that we don't know who he is, but we know that Hutcherson is playing, the fail son of some sort of rich family dynasty.
Powerful person. They work. He works out of a place called Danforth Industries or banking or whatever. Jeremy Irons plays a guy named Wallace who runs it. Who we find out used to run the CIA.
Yes, so he went into private practice. He went to work for ostensibly in security, which makes sense. Work for the CIA, you got to work in private security for less the company that Hutcherson is running, which is all these call centers, and more for the family that Hutcherson's a part of, to keep an eye on Hutcherson. We get like one early phone call to the mom, but we don't find out who the mom is until later.
No, but we see she's wearing a little American flag pin.
And no spoiler to say, there's no White House in this movie. There's no Oval Office. In fact, the moment of reveal that this lady is the President of the United States is done. It's almost like half swallowed by the people delivering the news. It's done very anticlimactically, which to me, because I knew it was coming, I was at least expecting it to be a moment that still might give me a chill. That first moment that you zoom out and you realize, oh, they're in the Oval Office. That's the Resolute desk. Or, oh no, they're playing basketball on the seal of the President of the United States because they're on some sort of official presidential property. They're on Air Force One. But no.
She's walking down a hallway flanked by people. For whatever reason, she's holding her own cell phone at the time.
Yeah, and then basically it's one of the FBI agents is like, oh my goodness, his mother's the President of the United States. And then when she's reporting to her boss, the Deputy Director of the FBI, she goes into a rather extended history of the president. Apparently, the family fortune came from a software company.
Just some tracking, some data mining.
Yeah, very data mining-esque, the kind of software that you might, license to big corporations and to the government. Yeah. And when the patriarch of the family dies, the son and the mother go in two different directions. The son, who I call a fail son, not really. He's actually pretty successful in that he's able to further monetize the dad's work, but by really zeroing in on the data mining portion and using the data mining portion to fuel his call centers so they know exactly who to call. Although at one point they say they focus on people with no heirs because they're somehow more vulnerable. But Felicia Rashad had an heir, had a daughter.
Yeah.
One more sign that maybe the whole daughter thing was added pretty late in the game. There's multiple call centers. There's a whole MLM type structure to the whole thing. Oh, this money went in to fuel the mom's campaign for president. She didn't apparently hold any office beforehand. She financed her own campaign. We don't, and then she won the office. And for most of the movie, they really make us believe that not only is Jason Statham the beekeeper, but he's also the bee slayer.
Because if the queen is unable to produce productful spawn,
Prospective males.
then it's okay to kill the queen.
Yeah.
And that you must kill the queen.
Because that is what the FBI daughter reads in the beekeeping book she finds on the beekeeper successor to Statham, who Statham has to take out.
The current beekeeper.
Because at one point, Irons calls the CIA calls the beekeepers activate their current beekeeper, sends the beekeeper after Statham kills that beekeeper, and then once that point, the beekeepers realize, wait a second, why are we even fucking doing any of this crap, we're out. And then the CIA is like, we're out too. You're on your own. And so that's when Jeremy Irons brings in a whole bunch of mercenaries.
Yeah, and at this point, the Beekeeper's taking everybody out. Jeremy Irons, Josh Hutcherson think that the only place that they'd be safe, or even potentially be safe, is if they're near the president.
And protected by the Secret Service detail.
Yes.
But they're going to the Secret Service and saying, would you mind if we bring in maybe 12 guys with guns who are not you to also be on the premises at the same time?
No background checks. And you're like, how could the Secret Service ever allow a security flaw like this? The American Secret Service, how could they make mistakes like this? I was like, is this even believable? And then, you know what? Turns out it is.
How dare you come into this office and bark at me like some little junkyard dog? I am the President of the United States.
So these mercenaries are brought in. The whole thing takes place not at Camp David, but was this shot in Europe? Was it like Romania or somewhere?
Like a Kennebunkport kind of thing.
Except it's very European style.
It was like Martha's Vineyard. If everything is like Massachusetts, then it was probably like Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
Or the Cape. Yeah.
And so the Beekeeper, the mercenaries, the son, Jeremy Irons, the FBI daughter, and the president all converge on this one setting. For the entire movie, we're led to believe that not only is Statham going to take out the son, but obviously the corrupt president too. And he doesn't, because it turns out the mother had no idea what the son was doing. And we, the audience, find that out, but everyone else who finds that out dies in the room with them, except for Statham's not in the room. He never hears any of the stuff that would actually clear her. I guess when he walks into the room, finding out what the president is, the son has a gun to his own mother's head, which might lead him to believe they're not totally on the same side. But that doesn't clear her of the crimes that he believes she's committed to get to high office in the first place, especially the crime of having a bad son.
Yeah.
Which, according to the book of beekeeping,
in the world of beekeepers, that's the equivalent of like murder.
Listen, some bees are queen slayers, which will rise up and kill their queen if she fails to produce the right kind of male offspring.
Fascinating.
So he winds up not killing the mom.
He winds up saving the president.
Yeah. He's kind of a hero, I guess, in that regard.
Yeah, because the son was going to kill the president, but instead, Quick Draw McGraw, B-Man, boops him right in the head.
And then the FBI daughter has a chance to take out Statham.
And she's like, I'll let him go.
Yeah, she lets him
He's
go.
actually a sweetie. You know, I forgot this. I'm looking at my notes. You know, she lets him go, and she just doesn't let him go. She says softly to herself, "Goodbye, Adam Clay." That's his name.
What she says is only one of many aliases also.
Yeah.
It's like how Jason Bourne, you actually find out in the first movie, that's just like one passport of 20. There's like nothing special about it, yet that's the name that sticks because it's on the title of the movie, and it has to be that in every movie. Yeah.
And Adam Clay,
it's a terrible name.
It has nothing to do with bees.
Get off my plane.
What do we know about this president, Ben?
What do we know? We know she's rich as shit.
Yeah. Independently financed her campaign, did not hold any office before then, did not maybe even have a job of any kind before then.
A Boston Brahmin, like very much like a Mitt Romney kind of person with that background in finance.
Yeah.
A New England blue blood, so it's also like the OG George Bush.
Right. Only one child from what we can tell. I don't think any reference is made to any other kids.
Nothing to other kids.
Even though she doesn't have a career in politics, we know that the Jeremy Irons character, the former head of the CIA, which is a largely political figure, does have a history with a family and is vested in protecting Madame Danforth.
Well, I would assume that when he was at the CIA, he might have used their software.
Yes. They were a politically connected family. I mean, it's interesting to point out, head of the CIA, that's what George H.W. Bush did before he was, vice president, or at least one of his roles before he was vice president, which then speaks to the Kennebunkport nature of kind of the movie. I'm sure that's a very intentional allusion that Wimmer and Ayer did, very smart of them to make those connections between the Bush family and the Danforth family in such clever ways.
Danforth, J. Danforth Quayle.
Yes. Obviously, that was a tip of their tongues, top of the mind. I mean, no, this movie has no direct allusions to any real politics.
Whatever's convenient.
That's why I mentioned the Hillary and Hunter thing earlier, because I guess it's easier to talk about what the movie isn't. Like, yes, you see a female president and I'll just still call him a fail son, because he's still failing as a human being, even if he's not failing financially.
Morally corrupt.
Yes. But, his failings are very different than any other president or child we've seen. It's not like he's not one of the Bush daughters drinking too much. It goes beyond just improperly filing your taxes, having a drug problem.
Yeah, he's sort of there's some SPF.
But also, the motivation isn't there. At no point do they say that his problems with drugs started with the death of a sibling.
Or the death of the father.
At no point does Danforth say, my son took this harder than I did, or he was a good kid until he lost his dad and then he lost his way. There's no dialogue to even say that the son is anything. I don't know.
There is some dialogue in there that makes it seem like while she loved her husband, he might have been a bit of a prick also.
Yeah.
Because when they're both at the Martha's Vineyard getaway house, the family's getaway house, she walks into a room where he's there. He's kissing her ass, and she notices that he's doing blow on his father's old desk. And she says, "How I wish he could be alive so I could kill him." I don't know whether was he the bad influence in the family, that while maybe the mom had some morals, the dad didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, the end of the movie is basically saying that she is a moral figure who deserves to be protected.
And she acknowledges she knows what her son is to an extent. She also says, "You're a good-looking kid. You really are. Do you know that? It means that God doesn't give with both hands."
Yeah. And what Statham doesn't hear, that only the audience, the son, and the soon-to-be-killed deputy director hears, is as soon as she finds out what's going on, her plan is to tell the public and be rather open about it.
Yeah. I mean, she's blaming him when they're hearing like gunshots and screams going outside their room.
Yeah.
She's like, "You understand you did this, right? You broke the rules. You corrupted an imperfect but functioning system."
Yeah, you sent a rogue agent, a rogue killer after us. And I blame you for that. Yeah. The guy out there terrifying innocent bystanders and killing everyone with a gun between you and me. I blame you for that, son. I feel like there might be a little more blame to go around. She should be a little more upset that the beekeepers after them at all.
But at that point, there's nothing you could do. You could be upset, but it's like, what are you going to do? The beekeeper's doing what beekeepers do.
At some point, she needs to say to the deputy director, "And what are we doing about this beekeeper thing?" Like, I get it's my son's fault, but again, what are we doing about it?
But it seems that it's been pretty much put out there. There's nothing you could do about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I think what they could do for future beekeepers is perhaps rip out that page in the How to Beekeep guide about queen slaying.
Yeah.
I think like that would be the lesson learned is, well, we shouldn't let them know about queen slaying. Maybe that's a bad idea.
I mean, is this now going to be like an Olympus Has Fallen thing where every movie has him now protecting her? He's a queen protector?
I think they could become buddies.
Motherfucker, I'm not asking if you're interested. I'm the president of the United fucking States, man.
Look, she said she cares. She wants to leave a better world.
She does. What do we know about like her agenda? What has she done in office?
Ooh, that we don't know. And we know when we find out she's a president, we know she's meeting diplomats from an African country.
Yes, we meet her in the most generic hallway, meeting extras from ostensibly different countries, and that's the big reveal. Oh, only a president can do that. She must be the president of the United States. And I get it. The White House is kind of overplayed at this point, especially in B movies. But they could have really handled that reveal a little more climactically. Especially because it's not like it got out in the trailers. It'd be one thing if they're like, this will be spoiled in the trailers. Who cares? Why are we going to sit on this for too long and make a game of it? But no, it wasn't spoiled. It's an actual legitimate twist in the movie. Yeah. What's next? Party. Can we infer anything about Party?
I think it's hard. I think she's probably like a centrist Republican.
It's funny. There was a time...
female. She's like a Carly Fiorina kind of vibe. Business lady.
Well, I mean, except she's the wife. Meaning she's not the... she's not like the entrepreneur herself.
I think we all know what you mean.
No, what I mean is her drive wasn't to make money all along, which might align her with the business interests that you might see of a centrist Republican, like when you see a Carly Fiorina type. Or who's the HP woman who ran for governor of California?
Meg Whitman.
A Meg Whitman type, yeah. Instead, she's more like...
Mackenzie? Bezos?
Yeah, instead you're getting more of a Mackenzie Bezos type out of it in terms of the person, even though she was instrumental in the building up of Amazon. One reason why I specify, spouse, wife, is because there's a big difference to me in the person who's driven by money and the person who's driven by doing what's best for their family and helping out their spouse and being a good partner. And eventually, if they get divorced, doing right by the world and not only continuing to further their own self-interest and their own, bank account. So there's a world where she's more Mackenzie Scott, which to me might actually push her more in a centrist Democrat than centrist Republican.
But still, going back to like her
widow.
connection and the family's connection to the CIA, that still makes me think that it's geared more right than left.
But if you found out that that same company also sold software that was instrumental for Greenpeace, which it very well might have been. I mean, like software, it's a tool that could be wielded by any number of people. I mean, they didn't say the software specifically for hacking cell phone networks. They didn't say the software, it was, if it's data mining, everyone uses data mining software.
Joe Biden doesn't.
Have you seen the software he runs on his computer?
I think it's Windows 95.
Yeah.
I actually think there's a cut scene where not Topher Grace steals all of Joe Biden's money.
It's
in Delaware eating ice cream.
That's, oh my goodness. Well, you know what? But that's just it, though. Okay, so here's the thing about the White House. Like, it's as vulnerable as any other institution in that if you can get somebody who lives in the White House to click on the wrong link, you can get the access you need. And so what happens if instead of being Felicia Rashad's who they hack, if it's, the mother-in-law of the president's or a teenager who has tricked into giving up nudes or something online through that kind of blackmail. That's a way to get into the White House, and I think a far more creative way than just saying, oh, the son of the president was behind the call centers. Yeah. Especially if it turns out that the teenage son tricked into giving his nudes was tricked using software created by the president's mother, who... Yes, Ben?
No, I'm with you.
Oh, was tricked into using software that gave the family the clout and the money they needed to be take the White House in the first place. Ooh, that's such sweet irony that the beekeeper probably, once he realizes that happens, he just walks away. It's a closed loop. You've gotten what you deserved.
That would be the honeypot scenario?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a sequel.
I mean, this movie is ripe for a sequel. It did well. It made
Yes, it
money.
did do well. Okay, so Party, we're split on that. I'm not just saying this to be argumentative. I actually believe that she's in the mold of a Mackenzie Scott and therefore might be a more centrist Democrat. Hell, she might even be pretty liberal. She might be leftist.
We're on the same side. I think we're pretty close. It's just like to what line in the center?
Well, that said, maybe because she self-financed her campaign, she could have been an independent, the first independent president. Can you be totally self-financed if you're a Democrat or Republican? Because they do their own fundraising too. It's not like you can. Yeah. So to be totally self-financed does mean you are disconnecting from a political machine of some kind. So maybe we are looking at an RFK type scenario. Although he's not using his family fortune. He's using his VP's family fortune. Oh, yeah, I guess she's also falls into the mold of the kind of character who we're talking about. She was married to, Eric Schmidt? No, who was she married to?
Who was married to Eric Schmidt?
Nicole Shanahan. Yeah, she was the ex-wife of Sergey Brin.
Oh, yes.
So Sergey Brin could be a Danforth type.
Okay. Well, there's other things we do know about the president. We know it's her first term.
Yes, we do get that.
Which lends itself to, does she get a second term?
No. No way.
No way.
But that said, would she even want a second term after this weekend?
I mean, so it's not quite a sex party happening. The fundraiser she's having at her house looks like it could devolve into a sex party.
There's some Eyes Wide Shut vibes, yes.
Yeah, there's like Cirque du Soleil performers going on over there. Yeah. Seems like naughty things have happened at that compound before. But now at least there's like 25 dead bodies, security breach. Her son got shot in the head.
Greatest greatest lapse of security in the history of the Secret Service. I think it's safe to say, even though the president doesn't die, I'll just say that it's the first non-assassination of a president that is going to go down in history as the greatest mistake ever by the Secret Service.
Which all you could really say about it is like both, thank God there was a beekeeper, and also, do we really need a beekeeper anymore?
Well, it's funny. Did you ever watch? I know you didn't watch the show. No one watched the show. But was ever on your radar Agent X on TNT?
Not at all.
15 years ago, it was a TNT series with Sharon Stone as the vice president.
Oh.
And so the premise of that series is there's a secret article of the Constitution that actually says what the VP is supposed to do.
Ooh. Uh-oh.
Because, like, famously the Constitution is
now. This sounds like a 1990s erotic thriller.
Well, what the secret article says is that the vice president is in charge of the Agent X program, which gives the vice president the authority to deputize a individual to act outside of the law on behalf of the United States government to do things that you don't want to have done on the record.
So,
like a beekeeper, basically.
So, Agent X Origins would have John Adams,
yes,
deputizing people. Paul Giamatti.
Was he Adams?
He was Adams.
They just did Franklin on Apple TV Plus with Michael Douglas. Speaking of Sharon Stone,
Giamatti is John Adams in Agent X Origins.
How? Because I'm the goddamn president of the United States of America.
First term. We don't think she gets a second term. What do we think her rating
approval numbers?
Her poll numbers.
Before this, the fact that she won as either an independent or someone who's at least independently wealthy enough that regardless of their party affiliation, they're running as their own, entity, independent entity. Basically, she's trying to do what Ross Perot couldn't do.
She comes across as like a likable personality.
Yeah.
She seems as a genuine person. She doesn't seem to be different in public versus private.
So I would say she probably was likable. She probably had high numbers before this incident. And then after this incident.
And then every man in government was like, told you so.
Here's what must have happened. They were so popular running for office, Madame Danforth, that she basically got the B team from the Democrats and Republicans. And that's why they didn't do the proper Oppo research on her to expose even the most minimum of wrongdoings of the son.
Yeah.
Because if it had been in any way a competitive race, there's no way they don't.
No, your son cannot be that much of a dirt bag.
Yeah. So I'm going to say she must have been pretty fucking popular.
Well, your son can be that much of a dirtbag. You just need to have other children who are like really good to be like, look.
But that's just it.
I've done a good job with other kids.
For most of the movie, in the same way you think she's bad, you also think he's a fuck up. And the twist at the end is she's good, and he's actually really, really good at what he does too.
He's smart. If only he would have applied himself.
Yeah, and so that also does make him different from other fuck up sons of presidents who.
Yeah, he completely understood the technology and how to use it,
and was able to take over something that dad had started and make it even more profitable.
Yeah,
but so I mean, leaving office, she's going to be pretty low.
I mean, there's nobody who's going to say like, I understand how something like that could happen. Yeah, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt.
She's going to own up to everything. That will endear her to some people, but even those people will be like, but she's still got to go. I like her still, but she's got to go.
Yeah. I mean, she'd probably resign. She seems like a moral person that after saying, this is what happened, what do you guys think? And they're like, you fucking suck. She's like, okay, based off of that, I think I'm going to step down.
So maybe the first woman president, maybe the first woman president to resign before the end of her first term.
Yeah.
I say maybe in the beekeeper world, who knows? This might be a common occurrence. What do you think her legacy will be?
I think the 27 dead people at her fundraiser.
Yeah.
Along with
how are you independently?
Wait, how do you think this is going to be spun? Right?
I'm supposed
to know about the beekeeper, and it's not as if now everybody knows about the beekeeper. What do you think people are going to write about?
The fact that the son pissed off the wrong person with his wrongdoings.
Yeah. And
that person came after them. And the nature of that person probably will be It's someone named Adam Clay. He has no hair. Here's a sketch of him. What do you know about Adam Clay?
Actually, they do have a fall guy there.
Who's the fall guy?
There was a guy who they thought that was Adam Clay. There's a guy who they thought
the other
was
bald
Adam
guy.
Clay. They're like, we got you, turn around. And he was like, whoa. I'm just
like 10 feet taller than
I'm just
Jason
a random
Statham.
bald guy.
Yeah, who's much taller than Jason Statham.
How dare you? So they could just kill that guy and be like, it was him.
Yeah.
And we got him.
So that's it. That's the president of Beekeeper, right?
Yeah.
Was there anything else in this movie that you feel like we need to mention?
I'd like to mention two things. One thing mainly. In the final scene, I don't think that Statham and Hutcherson were ever in the same room.
Until the very end.
No, I don't even think they were on set at the same day.
Oh.
I think Statham just did all of his scenes. It was one of those movies where you're noticing like there were changes in character that might not have made sense, that they might have changed.
Right.
Why was Minnie Driver in the movie? They're like, oh, we could just get her on these 3 days to shoot her scenes because she's not in scenes with any of these other people.
Right, yeah.
And I think maybe it was scheduled that they were like, we don't know who's going to play the son yet. We might need this extra money to do other like stunts and stuff. Let's just do all of Statham's scenes.
You know who they wanted, right? And they thought they could get him. Chalamet. He had to be the top of their list.
Yeah, it was. But they only wanted him to do the character from Saturday Night Live.
Or
drip, drip. the Skeet character that he did two sketches.
He's a guy who, what was his thing when he was a teenager in New York and he would go on the internet, he'd like sell like custom made like Nintendo game controllers or something?
Maybe, I believe it. He's got that hustle, baby.
What was the other observation?
That's it mainly.
Oh, you're like, there's two things. One is that they're not in the same room together.
No, that was it. It also goes to like the Minnie Driver casting.
Yeah.
That they're just like, okay, we're going to schedule this in a way where like we know what we could do with Statham, and then we'll figure everything out afterwards.
Right. I'd be shocked if the early drafts of this had that daughter-mom connection that exists in the shot.
You wouldn't be shocked.
I wouldn't be shocked.
You'd be stung. And that's when you cue the music, because that's fake presidents.
That's how you end an episode on The Beekeeper. I've been Eric Buckman.
I've been Ben Oren.
Find us on social medias, most social medias. Just look for fake_presidents and maybe we're there. If you want to reach out to us, email us, fakepresidents@gmail.com.
Rate, review, subscribe. Our music by Johnny Sadoff.
That's correct.
And he's got music coming out in a new TV series coming out this month.
Oh, what series?
Chimp Crazy on HBO. He did the music for that. That's from the makers of Tiger King.
Wait a second. I just had lunch with one of the editors on that, Chuck Divac.
Wait, Chuck Divac's one of the editors?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, that's funny.
Yes. You know Chuck?
I know that. I remember Chuck. I haven't seen Chuck in like since I graduated college 5 years ago.
I didn't know that was coming out so soon. It sounds like a crazy story about that happened at this chimpanzee sanctuary.
Yeah,
Check
I guess,
it out.
But also people who listen to us are fans of fake presidents, so we have to tell them, spoiler alert, so they don't waste their time with it, that there are no fake presidents in Chimp Crazy. Sorry.
I don't know if you know this, but there's a real election coming up, and so people might want a distraction to fake politics now more than ever, and we're here for you. If you have a friend who's like, real politics is giving me a headache, I'd like to take a break, send them our
way.
See you later.
Bye.
Oh, wow. You're a real fan of David Ayer.
I am.
You just can't pronounce his name.
I met him once.
Oh.
But I had to sign an NDA.
And he only introduced himself by his first name.
Yes.
Still don't know.
I still don't know. Well, he actually told me the correct way to say it.
Yeah.
But it was already well known that I didn't know the correct way to say it. So even though I do know now, I have to pretend like I don't know because of the NDA.